Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Amritpal Singh. Coming up in the next 1 hour, Trump, Zelensky and J.D. Vance get into a heated argument in the Oval Office. Most European allies rally behind Zelensky after the spat. India is emerging as the factory of the world, says Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Highlights India's rising stature on the world stage. Kurdistan Workers' Party militia declares ceasefire with Turkey after more than 40 years of conflict. Hamas rejects Israel's formulation to extend phase 1 of the Gaza ceasefire, which expires today. First, news about the political earthquake that caused after that highly public spat between Donald Trump, J.D. Vance on one hand, and Ukrainian President. A tense and a highly public Oval Office showdown between Trump and Zelensky has sent shockwaves through international politics. What was meant to be high-stakes diplomatic meeting quickly turned into an explosive confrontation, leaving the US-Ukraine relations at the crossroads. Here's how it unfolded.
A high-stakes diplomatic meeting turned into a political spectacle as Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky clashed in a fiery Oval Office showdown.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's back to you far more than a lot of people said they should have.
The meeting, originally intended to coordinate a peace plan, quickly descended into chaos as Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance accused Zelensky of not being thankful and rejecting their truce proposal with Russia.
You have to be thankful. You don't have the cards. You're buried there. You're people are dying. You're running low on soldiers. Listen, you're running low on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing. And then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire.
In this entire meeting, you said thank you. You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
In a heated exchange broadcast globally, Trump and Vance clashed with Zelensky, pushing him to accept a peace deal that required Ukraine to make compromises. Zelensky, however, pushed back, arguing that past peace efforts had failed to stop Russian aggression.
He occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him.
At one point, Vance interrupted Zelensky, calling him disrespectful, escalating tensions even further. The Ukrainian leader left shortly after the exchange, refusing to apologize for the chaotic meeting.
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media.
Later in an interview, Zelensky said that without US support, Ukraine would struggle to hold off Russian forces, underscoring the stakes of the conflict.
It will be difficult for us. That's why I'm here. That's why we speak about the future negotiations. It will be difficult without your support, but we can't lose.
Trump, however, doubled down on his criticism, saying Zelensky did not look like a man who wanted peace.
From his standpoint, I think he very much overplayed his hand. We're looking for peace. I saw it today. This is a man that wants to get us signed up and keep fighting, and we're not doing that. Not for this country.
With US-Ukraine tensions at an all-time high, the Oval Office clash has raised serious questions about America's future role in the conflict and whether Ukraine can continue its fight without full US backing. With Nupur Sharma, Fuzail Ahmed's report for DD India.
And the meeting between Trump and Zelensky was nothing short of dramatic. Still, the European leaders are rallying behind Ukrainian president. My colleague Arti Rana has more on this.
Solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position.
Explosive meeting between US President Donald Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky continues to reverberate across the Atlantic.
We're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now.
But European nations have strongly reiterated their support for Ukraine, causing a deepening of transatlantic rift. The leaders of France, Germany and the European Union emphasize that Ukraine's fight is not just about its sovereignty, but about defending European security. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen voiced her unwavering support for Ukraine. EU President Kaja Kallas went a step further, declaring Ukraine is Europe and stating that free world needs a new leader, signaling frustration with Trump's stance. French President Emmanuel Macron called Russia the aggressor while claimed Ukraine a victim. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz emphasized his commitment to Ukraine while stating that Ukraine can rely on Germany and on Europe. Germany's new conservative leader, incoming Chancellor Friedrich Merz, who has said he seeks independence from the US. Similar support came from Sweden, Lithuania, France and the Czech Republic, all highlighting Ukraine's role in defending not just its own sovereignty, but also Europe's security. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer also backed Zelensky and expressed support for Ukraine. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese saying Canberra would continue to stand with Ukraine, though countries like Turkey and Italy have remained silent in the aftermath.
The people of Ukraine have suffered greatly in defence of their nation and their national sovereignty. And Russia has acted like a bully, a big country seeking to invade and to take over territory from another sovereign nation, in this case Ukraine. And like the rest of overwhelmingly countries around the world, we have stood with Ukraine and we will continue to do so.
In contrast, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, a known ally of Trump, supported the president's stance, adding fuel to the transatlantic rift. On the Russian side, former President Dmitry Medvedev did not hold back, mocking Zelensky and praising Trump's remarks, while claiming that American president was right to call the conflict a dangerous gamble. European leaders largely avoided mentioning Trump or Vance, focusing instead on reaffirming their support for Ukraine as its conflict with Russia enters year 4. The geopolitical divide is clear. The world watches closely as US and Europe continue to clash on how best to handle the crisis. Will this diplomatic rift have a lasting impact on global alliances? Only time can tell. Bureau Report, DD India.
And in comments coming in from European leaders, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has said that Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky must restore his relationship with Trump. I quote, his exact words are restore his relationship with Trump. This came after the spat between Zelensky and Trump at the White House. Meanwhile, Polish president has also stated that Zelensky should get back to negotiations with the United States. And British newspapers and Londoners expressed shock over the heated confrontation between US President Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky. The exchange witnessed by the world marked a dramatic deterioration in the US-Ukraine relations. Trump and Vice President Vance accused Zelensky of being disrespectful, while Zelensky challenged Trump over his lenient stance towards Russian President Vladimir Putin. British newspapers featured headlines like "A spectacle to horrify the world and the White House. Some Londoners criticized the public clash as disgraceful and bullying. Meanwhile, Ukrainians voiced disappointment and expressed concern over potential territorial concessions for peace. Okay, moving on to some other stories. The first phase of the Israel-Hamas truce is set to end on Saturday, but talks for a permanent ceasefire remain unresolved. Experts believe that while phase 2 of the ceasefire may not start soon, it is unlikely to collapse, as Egypt, Qatar and the United States will host new talks. Rabindra Chauhan brings us more.
The first phase of the Israel-Hamas truce is set to end on Saturday, but talks for a permanent ceasefire remain unresolved. Hamas rejected Israel's proposal to extend the truce and confirmed there are no ongoing discussions for the second phase of the ceasefire. Israel's delegation returned from Cairo on Friday without securing an agreement to extend the 42-day truce through Ramadan. This uncertainty kept Israelis worried for the fate of the remaining hostages.
If the ceasefire doesn't go through and the deal stops in the middle and our people will be left there, then it would be an enormous pain and fear for us, and mostly a torture for the people who are still held in the hands of the terror organization that tore them from their families, from their lives, and is still holding them in the tunnels, in starvation and torture.
On the other hand, Arab countries rejecting Trump's proposal to have the US take over and redevelop Gaza are holding an emergency Arab League meeting in Cairo next week to discuss Gaza's reconstruction and a post-war plan. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres will also attend the meeting to address the issue.
Next Tuesday, I will be in Cairo to join the extraordinary summit of the League of Arab States to discuss the reconstruction of Gaza. There must be a clear political framework that lays the groundwork for Gaza's recovery, reconstruction, and lasting stability. And this framework must be based on clear principles. This means staying true to the bedrock of international law.
Experts believe that while phase 2 of the ceasefire may not begin on Sunday, it is unlikely to collapse entirely. Egypt, along with Qatar and the United States, which have been mediating peace efforts in Gaza, will host a new round of talks. Although second phase negotiations were initially set to begin on the 16th day of the deal, Israel is yet to agree to discuss this stage. With Bureau Inputs, Rabindra Chauhan's report for DD India.
And in a historic move, the Kurdistan Workers' Party has declared immediate ceasefire and announced plans to disarm, responding to the call of its jail leader Abdullah Öcalan. They've called for a ceasefire with Turkey, with whom they had a kind of a conflict for over 40 years. However, the group stresses that certain political and democratic conditions must be met for lasting peace.
A historic shift in Turkey's long-running conflict with Kurdish militants. Outlawed Kurdish rebels have declared a ceasefire, responding to a landmark appeal from jailed PKK leader Abdullah Öcalan, who has urged the group to disband and end over 40 years of armed struggle.
Convene the Congress and take a decision to integrate with the state and society. All groups must lay their arms and the PKK must dissolve itself.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has welcomed the move, calling it a new stage in Turkey's fight against terror. However, he warned that Ankara will closely monitor whether the ceasefire is fully upheld.
Almost all of the excuses that the terrorist organization used as a tool for exploitation for a period of time have either been eliminated, resolved, or the solution has been put in place. The efforts for a terrorism-free Turkey have entered a new phase as of. We have the opportunity to take a historic step on the path to the goal of tearing down the wall of terrorism that has been built between a 1,000-year-old brotherhood.
The United Nations has also praised Öcalan's appeal, calling it a glimmer of hope for lasting peace.
I think we've all seen the reports coming out of Turkey regarding Abdullah Öcalan, the imprisoned leader of the Kurdistan Workers' Party, the PKK, and his message calling for his fighters to lay down their arms and for the PKK to dissolve itself. The Secretary General welcomes this important development. This represents a glimmer of hope which would lead to a resolution of a long-standing conflict.
Meanwhile, scenes of celebration erupted across Kurdish communities in Syria, Iraq and Turkey as thousands took to the streets, hoping that this marks the end of decades of bloodshed.
Today it's an amazing day, historical day. Everyone all the world and all the part of Kurdistan is waiting for this amazing day. Actually, the statement of Lausanne published is amazing.
But with deep-rooted tensions and past ceasefires collapsing, the world watches closely. Will this be the moment that finally ends the conflict or not? With Bureau Inputs, Amish Mahajan's report for DD India.
And still to come up on DD India NewsHour, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi says collective work in building new India is underway. World-renowned experts enjoy a groundbreaking hydrogen bus ride in India. 4 dead, 50 rescued after an avalanche hit the northern Indian state of Uttarakhand. Search operations for remaining missing persons on.
In a world increasingly shaped by climate challenges, we are all exposed to new risks. But efforts are being made to tackle these challenges.
Once you have per square kilometer accurate data, they will start mobilizing actions, and the top-down folks, will have an ability to focus on specific parts where the problem is.
By using locally grown food, we can not only reduce our impact on the climate, but also prevent lifestyle diseases.
I think this is extremely important to have this kind of community level engagement. And some of these awareness programs I am aware of are also providing some individual level strategy to really adapt to the situations.
We have community radio stations. We also have door-to-door information drives.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Amritpal Singh. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi attended the next conclave at Bharat Mandapam in New Delhi, launching NewsX World Channel. He highlighted India's growing global influence, calling it a world force driving progress. He also stressed the success for Vocal for Local campaign and India's unique approach to innovation. DD India's Mihir Maihuri has more.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi attended the next conclave at the Bharat Mandapam in New Delhi. During the event, he launched the NewsX World Channel. Addressing the gathering, Prime Minister Modi reiterated that the world is keenly watching 21st century India, eager to explore and understand the country.
21वीं सदी के भारत पर आज पूरी दुनिया की नजर है। दुनिया भर के लोग भारत आना चाहते हैं, भारत को जानना चाहते हैं।
Underscoring India's rising global influence, Prime Minister Modi said that the country is emerging as the new factory of the world. He asserted that India is not just a workforce, but a world force driving global progress.
आज भारत न्यू फैक्ट्री ऑफ द वर्ल्ड बन रहा है। हम सिर्फ वर्कफोर्स नहीं, वर्ल्ड फोर्स बन रहे हैं। कभी हम जिन चीजों का इंपोर्ट करते थे, आज देश उनका इमर्जिंग एक्सपोर्ट हब बन रहा है।
PM Modi also said that Vocal for Local campaign is bearing fruits as Indian products are going global and making their presence felt across the world.
आज हमारे यहाँ आयुष प्रोडक्ट्स और योग लोकल से ग्लोबल हो गए हैं। दुनिया में कहीं पर भी जाइए, कोई न कोई तो योग को जानने वाला मिलेगा ही। आज भारत के सुपरफूड हमारा मखाना लोकल से ग्लोबल हो रहा है।
Highlighting that India is now becoming the land of infinite innovations, the Prime Minister stressed that India was not only innovating but also innovating, meaning innovating the Indian way. He highlighted that India is creating solutions that are affordable, accessible, and adaptable, and offering these solutions to the world without gatekeeping. Mihir Makri's report for DD India.
And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi virtually addressed the post-budget webinar on agriculture and rural prosperity. In his address, he said that India's resolve to move towards Viksit Bharat or developed India is very clear. Adding further that he said that collective work in building India is underway.
विकसित भारत के लक्ष्य की ओर बढ़ रहे भारत के संकल्प बहुत स्पष्ट है। हम सभी मिलकर एक ऐसे भारत के निर्माण में जुटे हैं जहां किसान समृद्ध हो, किसान सशक्त हो। हमारा प्रयास है कि कोई किसान पीछे न छूटे। हर एक किसान को आगे बढ़ाएं। हमने कृषि को विकास का पहला इंजन मानते हुए अपने अन्नदाताओं को गौरवपूर्ण स्थान दिया है।
India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal on Saturday said that the world's AI journey will be incomplete without India. He was speaking at Mumbai Tech Week 2025. He added that India is the fourth largest adopter of AI in the world on Saturday, adding that the nation will be at the front of the AI age.
The world's AI journey will be incomplete without India. Many countries recognize that. We are the fourth largest adopter of AI in the world today. I dare say no effort to bring AI at the center stage of our lives could be complete without some Indians playing a role somewhere along the chain. And therefore, your capabilities are well recognized and India will be at the forefront of the AI age. Mumbai is the place where the international fiber optic underground cables have a landing zone. So for AI, what we talk in terms of data centers, investment in data centers, the hyperscalers, Mumbai is the preferred destination.
And Goyal also said that the strength of the country and the market can ensure that foreign investors will never dominate the Indian market. He said he was speaking at the EMFI Mutual Fund Summit at Mumbai. The minister appealed to the industry to make sure that the country is not let down and that even the smallest of our investors and stakeholders are taken care of.
The strength that 70 lakh crores, nearly soon to be $1 trillion, has, the influence that $1 trillion has on the marketplace, we can make sure that foreign investors will never dominate the Indian market. We will determine India's future. It is in your hands. And I appeal to all of you to make sure that we will never let the country down. We will not let even the smallest of our investors and stakeholders down.
World-renowned experts enjoyed a groundbreaking hydrogen bus ride from the iconic Taj Mahal to Bharat Mandapam, showcasing India's commitment to clean energy and sustainable mobility. Among the distinguished guests on board were physicist Brian Greene, MIT professor Jonathan Fleming, Dr. Christian Gasparich from the mobility world, and venture capitalist Namit Choksi. discussing the vast window of opportunities India has in the hydrogen economy and clean energy revolution. The hydrogen bus ride reflects Prime Minister Modi's vision of a green and self-reliant India. This ride is not just a journey across the city, but a glimpse into the future of green transportation and innovation.
What you need to be a world leader is you need the people who are trained, who are creative, who are enthusiastic, who are energetic. And that's what you have in droves in this country. And so there's a huge opportunity for India to be a leader in this technology.
I think this is going to be significantly cheaper than your regular fuel. And so just in terms of cost parity, I think it'll make a lot more sense. So I think, yeah, to wrap up, I think two things, right? Sustainability, but also like cost parity and financial perspective, it makes a lot more sense.
I don't think there's a clear winner yet. I mean, there has been test operation for hydrogen. The Middle East is actually betting on hydrogen quite a bit. I would say none has really figured it out fully. Maybe India could be the first one.
India has all of the ingredients, starting with the leadership at the top, in order to become this global hub. Because the home market here is bigger than any other home market in the world. So if you're number one in the number one market, you have a really good chance at being the global leader.
And India's progress in science, technology and space exploration continues to receive global recognition. During their visit to the iconic Taj Mahal in Agra, renowned physicist Dr. Brian Greene and former NASA astronaut Mike Massimino spoke highly of India's remarkable growth and contributions to the world. They praised the country's advancements in space exploration, scientific research and innovation, highlighting how India is shaping the future on a global scale. Listen in.
This is my first time in India, and although I've seen India from space, and it was quite beautiful from space, it's even more beautiful on the ground. The most beautiful thing that people have made that I've ever seen, and to think about that they did it so many centuries ago without the technology we have now. I'm an engineer, so I don't know how you would begin to do this without the modern tool. I don't know if you could do it now. You couldn't do it now. It makes it even more amazing that they did it all those years ago.
India's unique approach to science and education is its people. There is so much energy among the students, and there's so much desire to create and to transform the world that I've not seen anything like it in the many places that I've visited in the world. So it's incredibly exciting.
At least 50 workers have been rescued safely after an avalanche hit Mana village in northern state of Uttarakhand. 4 are dead, while the search operation for the remaining 5 is underway. Death of the 4 was confirmed. Chief Minister of the state, Pushkar Singh Dhami, conducted an aerial survey to assess and review the rescue operations. He also met with the army personnel and officials from the rescue agencies in Jyotir Math. Earlier, Prime Minister Modi also spoke with Chief Minister Dhami over the phone to review the rescue operations. He discussed the ongoing efforts to safely evacuate the trapped workers and inquired about the prevailing weather conditions, including rain and snowfall in the state. Prime Minister assured all possible support from the central government to deal with any emergency situation. And still to come up on DD India News Hour, a discussion with a special guest on the fallout of the public spat between J.D. Vance and Donald Trump on one hand and Volodymyr Zelenskyy.
India is known as the land of yoga. Few extraordinary individuals have taken this magic of ancient wisdom to people around the world.
Paramahansa Yogananda taught that, the basic law of right human behavior is self-reform. And that means if we can put the majority of our effort to changing ourselves for the better, then we will influence others in the world by our example. India has its ancient teachings of yoga has a real place to play in the developing world civilization. and what it means to be a global citizen, to consider the whole world kind of in your embrace.
Welcome to Jaipur.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Amritpal Singh. Well, let's look at the headlines. Trump, Zelensky and JD Vance get into heated arguments in the Oval Office. Most European allies rally behind Zelensky after the spat. India is emerging as a factory of the world, says Prime Minister Narendra Modi, highlights India's rising stature on the world stage. Kurdistan Workers' Party militia declares ceasefire with Turkey after more than 40 years of conflict. And to talk about that much talked about spat between JD Vance and Donald Trump on one side and Volodymyr Zelensky on the other at the Oval Office about 12 hours back, I'm joined by Professor Harshvardhan Pant, Vice President ORF. Professor Pant, thank you very much for joining us on the show. My opening question to you is, why did Trump have to do it the way he did it?
I think, Amrit, he himself summed it up in one sentence. He said it's great television. And I think a lot of this is that he allowed the fact that the President of the United States allowed such a spat to continue in his office for such a long time is quite extraordinary. But it also, I think, goes straight to how Mr. Trump likes it. He could have stopped it at any minute. He could have made a dignified exit from that any minute. He could have converted it into formal negotiations any minute and shut it off. He decided not to do it because I think he felt that this is great theater. This is also, I think, in some ways what he said, that people should know it. That I think he was also appealing to his base in some ways with this, that look, this is the difference between American position and the position of Ukrainians who are not willing to compromise. You have elected me for a purpose, and therefore I am trying my best to end this war. But here you have Ukraine that is not willing. So I think in some ways he was doing two things. He looked at it as a great spectacle, but perhaps more importantly, he was by making it public. He was ensuring that that the differences that are there between Washington and Kiev would be out in the open, so that later on, when you have a restart of this process once again, he would be on a stronger wicket to therefore demand that we start from this premise rather than the premise of the past. So I think he has laid out the groundwork for the next stage as well.
Professor Pant, we'll come to the the meat of it, or the substance of it in a moment. That what he said and what Zelensky said and what were they angling. But why the theatrics? It looked like a setup into a trap into which poor Zelensky just walked in. Let's look at it from the beginning. When Donald Trump comes out at the door of the White House to receive Zelensky, he takes a dig at him. He says right in front of the media, I've been there. There is a photo opportunity there, but he makes it loud and clear. look, he's dressed appropriately for the meeting. So he takes a dig at him. Zelensky clearly is uncomfortable. Then they walk in. It looked like almost a trap. So why did Vance and Trump have to be so aggressive? If they had a point, they could have done that, as is done in diplomatic parleys, behind closed doors and said, well, this is our stand. You know, that's how the give and take diplomatic negotiations take place. But why make statements that you've been disrespectful, and why that finger pointing kind of slanging match that took place?
See, it is clear that they, the Trump team, Trump-Vance duo, don't like Zelensky at all. And I think the point that was also made by Vance, that look, you were campaigning for the opposition. So I think there is also an element of that he was behind.
So it's
the
domestic, the hate of the domestic politics coming into this.
See, everything for Mr. Trump is domestic politics. For all politicians, local politics matters. But for Mr. Trump, because he takes personal, insinuations, personal attacks very, very seriously. He never forgets that, who has been behind him, who had been against him. And I think he carries it along. So in that sense, I don't think there is any serious attempt on the part of the Trump administration to resolve the conflict. They do want to end it, at least the active phase of war. But I don't think it is meant as an exercise where both sides are deemed to be equals. Look at the posture vis-a-vis the Russians. When American diplomats, Marco Rubio, sits with the Russians in Saudi Arabia, look at that posture. Look at how he has talked about the Russians, about Putin himself, and look at how he has talked about Zelensky from the very beginning. He seemed to be turning that back yesterday or day before. When someone said that you have talked about Zelensky in this manner, he said, "Did I do that? Maybe I should not have." But I think clearly he has been targeting Zelensky from the very beginning, and a lot of it is about, look, you are not with me, so therefore you must be against me, and therefore what I will give to you will be something that will be on my terms.
Okay. All right. Now let's come to the substance of it. If you look at the whole video, that 49-minute video, where things start going bad is when Zelensky says, we're ready for the deal, for the mineral deal, but we want security guarantees. That is when things go south. He says, well, you can't, you're losing it, you don't have the cards, and then he starts calling him things and saying you are gambling with World War III, basically telling him that you're in no position to negotiate. You're a weak man, you're losing soldiers on the ground. And Vance tells him that, where Zelensky responds back saying that, have you ever been to Ukraine? Have you been on the warfield and had to have a look at for yourself? Which, J.D. Vance says, well, I've heard and I've watched, etc. So clearly, if the Americans are not interested in getting the security guarantees from Putin, or if they can't secure them from Putin, why make a spectacle? They should have just behind closed doors told him that, well, at the moment Putin will not agree, or we are not in a position, or we are not interested in getting the security guarantees. These are your limited options. Here you stand. We're not going to back you more with American taxpayer money. We're not going to pour that money. Why make a spectacle out of it? That's what I'm trying to understand. I mean, apart from what you say, that his personal grudge against him for, supporting the previous administration.
See, I think, in some ways that is Mr. Trump's style also, that look, he makes a lot of things public. Now, the clever politicians, those who have been able to manage him, if you see, for example, how Mr. Modi managed him, or how just recently Emmanuel Macron or Starmer, British foreign prime minister, managed him. There is a way to handle him. There is a way to sort of take a step back and and absorb some of those blows. But I think here, obviously, for Zelensky, and I have some sympathy here for him, that look, you are fighting a war, right? People are dying every day. So to be told that, look, you don't hold any cards and you are weak, and when a country, we can disagree, about the sources of the conflict, but the fact that a smaller country like Ukraine has stood up to Russians for 3 years, it is itself a remarkable achievement with all the help they have been getting here and there. But at the end of the day, Ukrainians themselves are holding the fort. So I think, so therefore, I think it became emotional for Zelensky. But I think a cleverer politician, perhaps, would have handled those blows much better initially when they were coming, and perhaps veered Mr. Trump away from this public posturing, which I think others have done. If you see how others have handled him, who have been successful, they have absorbed some blows. They have said, all right, let him speak what he wants to, but we will, the substance we will talk behind closed doors. Here, Zelensky was, he came out into the open. He just couldn't take it anymore. And I think that's where things became awry, and the sort of everything became public and everyone came out.
So it was a setup, and poor Zelensky walked into the trap.
Fell for it. I think it was, yeah.
Okay. I mean, in fact, if you look at it from Zelensky's point of view, all he was arguing was for security guarantees. When he said that you're now in position, so he said it started way back in 2014. President Obama was in office, you were in office, he told Donald Trump to his face, you were in office, then Biden came into his office. All these, peace talks happened then also, but he walked into Crimea, then he again walked into my country. So if there are no guarantees, what kind of a peace are we talking? So he does have a point there.
Amrit, it's a very important point, because that's the point perhaps that would have been very hurtful for Trump. Someone who thinks of himself as the savior of the world, Zelensky told him that, look, the conflict's origins actually go back to you and to Obama. So in a sense, it was also perhaps a bit tactless of Zelensky to do that at that point, because he was coming to close a deal. Now he was telling Trump that, look, the fault is also partly yours. You allowed this to happen. Now I think that would have hurt much more in some ways for Trump to acknowledge and accept that he, if you recall, he immediately came back. He said, look, Obama was not giving you anything. I gave you javelins. I gave you this. I gave you that. Which is true. But the fact of the matter is that because Americans did not stand up to Russians at the right time, the situation went out of control, and Putin believed that they would not, an American would not support Ukraine, and therefore he went all out. So I think, there is so much personality-driven politics or personality-driven posturing happening here that it's very difficult to divine the strategic logic behind what has happened.
Yeah, someone very interestingly and rather sarcastically remarked today that who says personal chemistry does not affect international relations? Professor Pant, now the question is, where does it go from here? Where does it put the whole peace deal that was being talked about between the Americans and the Russians? What does Trump get Putin to commit to?
I think we are in a bit of a limbo at the moment, and I think the choices are for Mr. Zelensky, I think, are pretty serious, because either he steps down and allows someone else to work with the Americans, because I think in his present position it will be very difficult for him to make that move, or there is an element where perhaps behind the closed doors Europeans use their leverage.
In fact, they're meeting in London tomorrow, and Zelensky is meeting Keir Starmer later tonight. I mean, their evening. In fact, I wanted to ask you that what is Starmer likely to tell tell Zelensky, despite the public posturing and despite publicly supporting him?
I think all the Europeans, I mean, you would have seen there has been a strong show of solidarity for Zelensky from Europeans, because I think ultimately the question that has to be asked for any kind of a peace talk is that this conflict is about the future of the European security architecture. It is not about Ukraine and Russia per se. It is about how the post-Second World War order that was post-Cold War order that was created, that has come unstuck, and how that needs to be rebuilt in some ways, where the legitimate interests of both sides, Russians and the Europeans, have to be taken into account. Ukraine is just one aspect of that. So I think Europeans are really worried because on one hand, Trump is hammering them on NATO. On the other, he's hammering them on Ukraine. Now, Europeans, I think, will have to do some amount of clever diplomacy here because they can use whatever leverage they have with Trump to restart the process. Because otherwise, Europeans in and of themselves do not have the wherewithal to either deter Putin from doing what he's doing on the battlefield or to ensure the kind of security guarantees that Ukraine wants can be provided, because Ukraine ultimately would want the American imprint on those guarantees. So I think some ways behind the scenes, perhaps the message to Zelensky would be that he should mend his fences whichever way he can. But Europeans themselves need to pull some weight here, because ultimately it's the question of their security. Americans don't have, in terms of hard security, nothing else to play. Now, I think one of the ways in which perhaps the engagement can continue is to use the same arrangement, that minerals arrangement that was the minerals deal that was supposed to be signed between Ukraine and Trump.
And Zelensky is making the right kind of noises when he was asked to, actually he didn't walk out of the White House, he was asked to leave the White House. Trump apparently refused to meet him, and he told Marco Rubio that, tell him to go now. And he was told to go. But after that, he goes on to, before he leaves the US soil, he goes on to that Fox News interview where he says, I came here to sign the minerals deal. I'm ready for that. And then he tweets that I'm thankful to the American president, to the American public, to the American Congress. So he's making those kind of conciliatory statements.
Well, Amrit, that might be sarcasm as well. Thanks to POTUS and because he was asked to say thank you so many times by Vance. But I agree. I think he has, because he has no other option. He has to, for the Ukrainians, he has to deliver. Although interestingly, if you perhaps some of the reports that are coming from Ukraine, they are very categorical that Ukrainians have really rallied around him at this point. Even the opposition is rallying around him. But I do think that minerals agreement remains one of the most interesting and important aspects to restart and re-engage with the US at this point, because that's something that Trump likes, and he wants to conclude that agreement.
True. So Trump wants that. Zelensky's got limited options. Europeans don't have the kind of money or wherewithal or even the resources to get Putin to agree. So this will have to come, but this has thrown a spanner in the works for some time at least. But things could get back to track sooner or later. Professor Harsh Vipant, that's all the time we have for scintillating discussion. Would I love to carry on? We'll come back to it another day. Thank you very much. And still to come up on DD India News Hour, India to take on New Zealand in the last group match of the Champions Trophy 2025. World Chess Champion D. Gukesh attains career best number 3 ranking.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Amritpal Singh. The week-long Swayambhu festival organized by Kathmandu Metropolitan has finally come to an end. This festival celebrated the historical, cultural and religious importance of Swayambhu, a UNESCO heritage site and sacred pilgrimage destination for the Buddhists. It promoted local products, food, art and tourism with activities including cultural performances, traditional art exhibitions, indigenous cuisine, health camps, blood donations and face painting. The theme of the festival was Pride of Ancestors, Nepali Glory.
हामी पनि भोक लाग्यो भने स्टलको थ्रुबाट नै खान जान्छ र हामीले पनि केही मन पर्यो भने स्टलमा चाहिँ किनेको छौँ र एउटा लोकल मार्केट.
The International Wheelchair Day was celebrated on Saturday to honor the role of wheelchairs in the lives of specially abled people. Promoting accessibility and inclusion, this day inspires the community to work towards providing equal opportunities to them. On this occasion, a wheelchair march of Divyang Jan or specially able people from Connaught Place Metro Station in Delhi under the Sugamya Yatra was held. The aim of this initiative is to make public transport and places more accessible and convenient for the specially abled.
मेन मकसद ये है कि हम कम्युनिटी को साथ लेके, एक्सपर्ट्स को साथ लेके शहर में घूमें, चाहे वो रेलवे स्टेशन हो, बस अड्डा हो, एयरपोर्ट हो, रोड्स हो, पार्क्स हो, शॉपिंग मॉल्स हो, कॉलेज यूनिवर्सिटी हो, टूरिस्ट प्लेसेस हो, आर्कियोलॉजी के कोई प्लेसेस हो, फोर्ट्स हो, मेन मंदिर, रिलीजियस प्लेसेस हों अदर, इन सब पे ऐसी टीम्स जाएं, इनफॉर्मली घूमें, बहुत कोलैबोरेटिवली सबसे बातचीत करें, अवेयरनेस फैलाएं.
You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for some sports news. South Africa have qualified for the semi-finals of the Champions Trophy with a convincing 7-wicket win over England in Karachi. South Africa bowled out England for a paltry 179 runs before they chased down the target for the loss of 3 wickets in less than 30 overs. Heinrich Klaassen and Rassie van der Dusen scored half centuries, while Wiaan Mulder and Marco Jansen took 3 wickets each. They join Australia, India and New Zealand in the semi-finals. England suffered their 3rd loss of the tournament after defeats to Australia and Afghanistan. India and New Zealand are prepared to battle for the top spot in the Group A of ICC Champions Trophy. Fans can expect a high-octane clash between the two in-form teams on Sunday in Dubai. With both sides already securing the semi-final berths, this encounter serves as a perfect dress rehearsal for the knockout stage.
India will take on New Zealand in their final Group A match of the ICC Champions Trophy 2025. The game will be played at the Dubai International Cricket Stadium on Sunday. Captain Rohit Sharma's side has already secured a semi-final spot with 2 wins in 2 matches. India head into this contest with momentum after a dominant 6-wicket win over Pakistan. Virat Kohli's unbeaten century sealed the victory in Dubai. India started their campaign with a 6-wicket win over Bangladesh, courtesy Shubman Gill's scintillating turn. Newly appointed vice-captain Gill has been leading run scorer for India in this Champions Trophy, having amassed 147 runs in 2 matches. Among other batters, Kohli featured second on the list with 122 runs. Talking about the bowling department, where pacer Mohammad Shami has been wrecker-in-chief for India, 5 wickets, while fast bowling partner Harshit Rana has 4 scalps against his name. New Zealand, led by Mitchell Santner, have also confirmed their semi-final spot. They defeated Bangladesh by 5 wickets in Rawalpindi, powered by Rachin Ravindra's 112. Earlier, they outplayed Pakistan by 60 runs in the opening match in Karachi. This match will decide the Group A topper. Regardless of the result, India will play the first semi-final in Dubai on March 4. New Zealand will feature in the second semi-final in Lahore on March 5. India have a better head-to-head record, winning 60 of their 118 ODIs against New Zealand. Kiwis have won 50, while 1 match ended in a tie. 7 ODIs had no result. The last ODI meeting between the two sides was 2023 World Cup semi-final. India won that game by 70 runs in Mumbai. They will look to repeat that success and finish the group stage on a high. Sports Desk, DD India.
An Indian batsman KL Rahul confirmed that the team was largely injury-free with only minor fitness concerns to be assessed during their final training session.
Everything seems pretty okay. There's no real concerns about anyone missing games. As far as I know, we'll probably know more in today's training. Yeah, everyone's been in the gym. Everyone's been at training the last time as well. So yeah, some concerns, but I don't think it's too much. Yeah.
Top order batsman Daryl Mitchell has declared himself fit to face India in New Zealand's final Champions Trophy group match after missing the match against Bangladesh because of illness. The Black Caps and India are both unbeaten and already assured of a spot in the last four ahead of Sunday's clash in Dubai, which will decide which side tops Group A and which teams they will meet in the semi-finals. Rachin Ravindra, who's recovering from a concussion, replaced Mitchell in the batting order against Bangladesh in Rawalpindi and scored a sparkling 112 as the Black Caps booked their spot in the knockout rounds. India's reigning world chess champion D. Gukesh has attained the career best number 3 ranking in the latest FIDE classical ratings. The 18-year-old Gukesh has gained 10 rating points to reach 2,787. He is now behind Hikaru Nakamura of USA, while Norwegian chess legend Magnus Carlsen continues to be the top-ranked chess player in the world. Meanwhile, Pragananda has entered the top 10 for the first time since July last year. He has climbed to the 8th position, while another Indian chess player, Arjun Erigaisi, has dropped to number 5 spot. In the women's category, Koniru Hampi remains the only Indian in the top 10. She is on the 6th place. India's Minister of State for Youth Affairs and Sports, Raksha Khadse, gave away the prizes to the winners in categories of Youth Contender Table Tennis Tournament as the prestigious event drew to a close in Vadodara. Apart from facilitating the young achievers, the minister also met veteran athletes to understand infrastructure requirements and training facilities for table tennis in the region. The sports minister also sought insights from sports organizations in Vadodara for talent scouting, necessary improvements in available coaching and training facilities, and challenges faced by veteran athletes. And that's it in this edition of DD India News Hour. But do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. The app is available both on Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code you see on your screen. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Amrit Pal Singh from my entire team here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching DD India News Hour. Bye-bye.